Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm excited. It's a sunny day. That's always a good day to do training. I have to get prepared though because winter's here. So I'm guessing we're going to do training when there's not as much sunshine. Before we get too far into this, I'd like to give a tip for those of you showing up early and on time. Just a way to say thank you with a different tip than the training that's actually going to happen. When you show up early and on time, you're helping LinkedIn put the word out to other people. And so my tip for you today is about actually expanding on this idea, right? And my tip I'm going to give you my tip as it relates to my content on LinkedIn, but you can do this with anybody's content. One of the things you want to consider when you're on LinkedIn and engaging on LinkedIn, we call this social selling because you're letting people know who you are. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. And when you engage on LinkedIn, it's one way to get people to know who you are, whether you're just doing a thumbs up or a small comment or a detailed comment. When you place value in training like mine, in a post like mine for today's content, for example, share that out to your network. Don't share it out the way LinkedIn does it, but share it out by going into the event where you click on register, and it allows you to say, share this with my network. And what you're doing is sending out that message that says, hey, I'm attending Neil's event. Do this with my event or other events that you attend on LinkedIn, or even if you attend them offline. Let other people in your network know about the stuff that you find value. If you download a white paper, if you see some good training, et cetera, a good post, let others know. We will thank you. Those of us who are in your connection will thank you, and you'll get what's called borrowed credibility. You've got the subject matter expert over here who you're sharing their stuff to your network. You're saying, I value this. I want to share it. People will first thank you, then thank the person that has the source. So keep that in mind. Especially as it goes to our training, I really appreciate it when you share out there. So that's always a good thing. All right, let me get my tech in a row and we're going to dive into training. Thanks for engaging in chat. I see a lot of people doing it already. By the way, if I haven't got back to you yet on the BD workshop, I'll get back to you. Just a lot of traction going on, but it means a lot to us that you're reaching out, and I'm going to follow back up. All right, let me share my screen and we're off to the races. Today, we're going to be talking about how to subcontract with larges, and it's a huge topic. We're going to talk about this many times. I've done many trainings in the past about how to work with large prime contractors. And as we go forward today, I'm really going to be focusing on the part of one of the ways that you can subcontract with a large prime is understanding what they want. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But that goes to Stephen Covey's, one of his habits here, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. If you know that I share this book, I share Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, and somebody will throw that in the chat for me because we got all sorts of great people in the community. But this habit is about first seeking to understand the large prime. In this particular case, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to accomplish? What do they care about? Then to be understood. But if we go in and we're like, hey, we're looking for money and blah, 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 it's like, or we're looking for a piece of the pie. Well, that's just trying to take, right? And the second bullet I have here is, I got this from Gary Vaynerchuk. If you know who he is out there, he wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook, or Hook, or something like that. And the whole point was, in boxing, it's like jab, 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 hook. And in here, he was trying to suggest give, and then ask or take from somebody. And so when you're thinking about trying to subcontract with large federal prime contractor, or really doing business with anybody or having a relationship with anybody, seeking first to understand is about understanding what they want. And it enables you to kind of give, and give freely, right? BNI is a networking organization out there. And I think their motto is givers gain. And I love that motto. I heard it 20 plus years ago, and I follow that forever too. It kind of goes with the whole big golden rule of do unto others as you want them to do to you. Givers gain is if you give enough, it's going to come back. And so when you think about subcontracting, really try to put yourself in a position that even though they're $1 billion firm and you're not $1 billion firm, they're still just people. And so treat them as you would want to be treated. Today's training, I'm going to cover down on how to subcontract with federal primes or large primes in 2 ways. I want to just put them in perspective. Where are the large primes as it relates to the way that I teach the 3 federal revenue streams that are out there? And then the second thing I want to talk about is what large firms look for from small businesses like us, right? There's specific things that they're looking for that will make you attractive to them as a subcontractor. And That's one of the first steps, is understanding what they want, what's in it for them, et cetera. So that's what we're going to cover down on today. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, and since 2018, I've been helping people like you understand that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. The process goes from A to Z, and when you follow a process, you have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. I want you to have repeatable, predictable results within your company. If you're a business developer or capture person, on the activity or the sales you're doing, if you're a business owner, on the revenue for your company, I want that to be repeatable and, most importantly, predictable, so that you can see the success in this case, right, in 2024. As we wrap up 2023 as a calendar year and go into 2024, you're setting goals, and those should be, your success should be predictable. And the way you make it predictable is by following a process like I have here, right? And this process, by the way, isn't just about going after a prime opportunity at an agency, but it's also the same way you go in, build a relationship with a large prime. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about subcontracting and how you subcontract. You can still follow this 7-step process. Research the large prime that you want to go into and understand them. What are they working on? What are their core competencies or mission sets, right? And then begin to target who's in there. And then pick up the phone and start doing cold calling. Later this week, I'm doing another live training on cold calling and how do you succeed on getting that first step of building relationships started. So anyways, that's the 7-step process. Make sure you follow it. When you do, you'll have the success that you want. Before we get too much farther, make sure, if you haven't already, we got a lot of new people in today. We've got well over 100 people registered, and I think almost 100 people already live. Put your company name into the chat. Put your core competency. If you're able to put, at GovCon Chamber, whatever your company is, so that it hyperlinks back to your company page on LinkedIn, that's even better. But put your company name in just 2 or 3 words that tell us what your competency is. This way we understand, okay, that's that company and this is what they sell. Also, this is your community, right? I do training, but the big value that comes out of this is the ability for you to network with so many other people in the federal market. So make sure you're engaging with people. A quick aside, by the way, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it later and as we go forward, we're doing our very first huge networking event. It's a virtual networking event on October 17th. Go look at my profile. I just put out a post about it a few minutes ago, and somebody will put something in the chat. Okay, let's dive in, because I like to go at a fire hose pace. If you're first time here, I respect time, and I end right at 12:30 if you don't know that. In the federal market, I teach that there's 3 ways to make money, the 3 federal revenue streams, right? This is an old graphic. I'll update it. But basically, the 3 revenue streams are subcontracting under small businesses, prime contracting with federal agencies, and subcontracting under large primes. I know it seems so very basic to those of us who've been in a while, but I know many companies that are in the 20, 50, $100 million range that aren't focused on this. The ones who actually do this really well are large primes. Large primes, the billion-dollar large primes, they have a plan for how they're making money on the subcontracting path under smalls, how they're going obviously to agencies, and how they're working with other larges to be able to go after dollars. And I want you to see that the same way, is that these are 3 revenue paths that you should be making money or planning to make money from. If you're brand new to government contracting, don't look at priming with agencies or subbing with larges yet. Right? This is sequential. You want to get experience subcontracting under small businesses so you understand the ins and outs of government contracting. It's not complex. It's not any more complex than math or, the English language in America, right? It's complex, but we learn it and we figure out verbs, blah, blah, blah. Well, government contracting is the same way. You just need to get into the game, learn how to play it, and subbing under a small helps you do that. When you've got experience and you're in an agency, then you can start going after prime contracts. I am primarily talking to service-based businesses. I really focus primarily in services and construction and services. Product sales a little different. You can dive right into sales right away. But prime agencies and large contractors, they look for you to have more experience. And so you're building your experience. But once you've got traction, once you're doing 2-3 million, you should be able to start having a plan every year when you create your annual strategy for what agencies you're going after, what you're selling, how much money you want to make. That plan should be broken down across these 3 revenue streams. And so today I'm going to be talking about subcontracting under larges, right? the reason I wanted to make sure and remind us all of these three revenue streams is that larges are the third place that you would go. You need the most amount of experience before you can truly work with large businesses, because they have more criteria and requirement to work with small businesses than federal agencies. Federal agencies are definitely going to work with small businesses before larges. And so understanding this where larges fit into the context of the three revenue streams helps you understand that if you're not priming already with agencies or subbing under smalls, that maybe you want to do that before you start looking at the larges. So let's talk about, and we're going to sit on this slide for a while because this is what I want to teach you today, right? What large firms look for in small businesses. And I have 10 things that large businesses look for from small businesses. And I want to walk through each one of them and put them in context of why. I mean, why are they important to the large? I figure if you understand why they're important to the large, then you begin to sit there and you're seeking first to understand them, then you can be understood, or more importantly, then you can address what they're looking for. So just starting at the top here, the first thing that larges look for is how you can help them, right? They're selfish. It's not a bad thing. It's like, how can you help us, right? They don't look out there. They're not a nonprofit organization. They're judged by their stakeholders, right? And their stockholders. And so they look to you and they say, how can you help us? How can you help us make more money? How can you help us increase our profit, manage loss, et cetera? They're not sitting there looking at you from an altruistic standpoint. This red box I have over on the right, large primes don't care about small business goals. They don't care about the fact that they're maybe supposed to be subcontracting 30% to smalls. That's a minimal concern to them, right? There'll be people who say, yes, we do care. But the reality is if they cared, we wouldn't need a law that says that they have to do that. We wouldn't need to have all these regulations guiding the fact that they're taking some of their large contracts and pushing it out to smalls. When we go in and knock on a large door thinking they should be trying to hit their small business goals, we're coming at it from a selfish angle ourselves. We're like, oh, you need to hit the goals, just give me the money, right? But if we look at this and say, look, I don't care about small business goals either. I know I can help you. I'd like to have an introduction with you and talk about how I can help you, where I'm going, where you're going, and how we can mutually help each other succeed. When you come at a large business from that perspective, they don't see you as, first off, they won't see you as a small business necessarily, because they'll just see you as somebody who's a teaming partner, right? The fact that you're small is immaterial. You can help them succeed. They want to succeed. If you come in with an attitude of succeeding, then they're going to want to talk with you. The second thing that I have here, large businesses need to minimize their risk or have no risk, right? And so large businesses have a low risk threshold when it comes to subcontracting. They're very fearful, and rightfully so, they're very fearful of small businesses coming in and increasing the risk to their projects, increasing the likelihood of falling on their face or failing for the customer. The large primes have contracts they have won with agencies. The agencies have missions. The large prime's mission is to support the agency's mission. If they bring a small business in, they need to know that small business is going to increase the likelihood of their success and the agency's success in the mission focus, right? What they don't want is increased risk. And so examples of increased risk is from the very beginning, right? Somebody will come in, a small business will come in and say, hey, we're going to team up, but then they can't staff up the contract. As soon as the contract starts, the government is looking for the large prime to fill the position so they can do the work. But if a small business comes in and it isn't able to staff up because they didn't think about the hiring part, then that's increasing the risk. It's increasing the likelihood they're not going to be able to accomplish what they told the government they would accomplish, right? And so that's one example of risk. I've got a couple of others down lower on that address this, but another example of risk is somebody coming in saying they can do certain work, but then they can't, right? They really don't bring the skill sets that either at all or at a level that the large prime needs. And so lower down, number 4, I talk about having a niche, but when you can address some of these concerns, when you write down in a column and say, here's the concerns a large has, for example, they're worried about us not being able to hire. Well, we can counter that by telling them we have a staffing plan. We have an approach. We work with these recruiters. We've got these people lined up who want to come work with us that haven't. One of my favorite things to do as a small business gets larger, like let's say 10, 20 people, is to be able to say, one of the ways we can minimize your concern about staffing up to the large is to say, hey, we've got people we can shift off of existing contracts and put our new people on the existing contracts we have, and put our current best people, and when I say best, I just mean they've been working with us and proven, put them on the large contract. Well, that's a way of addressing their concerns. You're selling yourself to the large prime when you go in there, right? When I talk about low risk threshold, that's just an objection they have. So you want to make sure you're addressing it. Number 3, right? They want to know you can support the mission. I mentioned this before. How can you help them? Number 1 is really about how can you help them grow? And number 3 is, can you support the mission of the agency? So do you understand that agency? Can you come in and help drive success on what they're trying to do? Whether it's a construction project or you're out in the woods doing some forestry type project, or whether you're doing some big software and IT project, it's all the same thing. There's a mission, there's a set of requirements, right? That's the mission that they have to accomplish, and the government has the mission. Can you support that? The VA, for example, I used to teach my staff that we don't do SharePoint, even though that's what we did, right? We don't do SharePoint. We improve the quality of healthcare to veterans because we were supporting the VA. That's what I want you to understand. My team, right, is that we support the VA's mission. And it's the same thing. Subs need to be able to go to the largest and say, we can sit there and support your mission and your efforts in supporting the agency's mission. Number 4, small businesses must have a niche. I talk about this a lot, about having a clear, concise offer. Your company, I said it early on, right? In the chat, put your clear, concise offer, your niche, 2 or 3 words that describe your core competency. When larges look at a small business, they don't want to see that you can do everything. There's billion-dollar firms who know they cannot do everything, right? They turn to other people. But when they look at you, they need to see a niche. And so I highly encourage you to look at what you're offering and go, is it too generic? Put it in the chat. I'll come back and comment. If you put it into the chat right now, later on today, I'll commit to coming back on anybody who puts it in there, and I'll tell you whether I think it's too broad or not. And I'll try to give you a quick suggestion on maybe going down. But I'll give you a quick example of niching down. I had a customer who was doing construction, and they did painting and flooring and elevators. And they niched down, coming all the way to elevators, because that was the part of work that they really liked doing. It was most profitable, but they were very good at it and certified. And so they had all this value they could put around it. So they niched down and they began to build themselves as an elevator company. And it gets them in. People, larges, see them as an elevator company and invite them in to participate. Now they're in, they can go back to selling flooring and painting as upsells, if you will. But when you have a niche, you make it easy for the rest of us to understand who you are, what you sell. Number 5, big thing larges look for, again, going back to they want to know how you can help them, right? Have you ever had a meeting with a large and they go, well, who do you know, right? What do you know about the agency? They might ask it in a rude way sometimes if they're, they're not really thinking, but what they're asking is a very valid question, right? I need to know if I'm going to team up with you and bring you on as a subcontractor, that's a teammate. I want you to help me win. And so if you have agency insight and knowledge, that's valuable to me. There's people I work with who are in our workshop who are very focused on particular agencies. And that's awesome, because then when the large is trying to go in, you've already got number 5 and number 6 here, agency insight and knowledge. You understand how the agency works, some of their major programs or policies that guide the work that gets done. And number 6 here, relationships, right? If you've got what they call agency intimacy, you really understand the agency, you've done your business development and research well, and you've built relationships within a particular agency, you're very attractive to large businesses who are trying to get into that agency. Right? And there are many larges who are not in every agency. They can't be everywhere. So when they look to you, they're excited about that. And so that's stuff you can do, building those. When you follow the 7-step process I talk about, this is when you're building that agency insight, research, and agency relationships is when you're doing targeting, outreach, and relationships within an agency. Then you bring that value to the large. Number 7, contract vehicles, right? This is a huge thing. Large businesses, sometimes they'll want to get access to your vehicles, right? And so if you can come in and talk to them about how you have access to Oasis or Stars 3 or whatever contract vehicles out there at the moment, and you have access to that because you're a prime contract holder on that vehicle, then you have the ability to help them participate in opportunities. And I've talked about this in other trainings, but we have pushed $200 million opportunities to small business set-asides and they go out on particular vehicles, well, larges will want to participate. When you can offer that kind of value to a partner, especially a large prime, then you're opening the door to that give and take. I'm giving you access to my vehicles, large. It would make sense at some point, I'm going to ask to participate on your contracts. When you're going after opportunities, could you use our niche? We have this contract vehicle and this niche, and we know this agency. How about we team up, right? And so number 7, if you've got those contract vehicles and you can come in and talk to them, that's one of those ways where you can give before you even ask or take. Number 8, this is when we start going into the way you run your company, right? Large businesses are looking for small businesses that are not risky. Number 2, I said low risk threshold. Well, these are the things, right? Financial stability right now at the end of September is a perfect example of financial stability and why it is a very valid question that larges have. Can you withstand 60 or 90 or 120 days of no pay? Can your company afford to pay your staff? Do you have something in place that if the government is committing to the invoices and the pay, but they don't pay on time because they're shut down or something, will you be able to survive that? And that's what the largest want to know. Do you have the financial stability to make sure that you don't threaten your employees and your staff's retention by not being able to pay them, right? It's nothing, it's bad, right? But it's nothing you're doing bad, but it's a maturity thing for your organization. Do you have relationships with your bankers and financial institutions that help you have lines of credit or whatever way cash comes into your company to be able to make sure that you can continue to survive if you work with a large? Because what they don't want is for you to come on as a subcontract. You got people working on it. Everybody builds up the team. The team is getting security clearances. They're getting knowledge on the project, et cetera. And then there's this hiccup in pay and you can't withstand that time period. Well, then your staff is like, hey, I got no choice. Sorry, boss, I'm leaving. And they go to another company. No hard feelings, but if you ain't paying me, I'm leaving, right? Or if you're going to delay my pay, that's just not, I can't take that, right? And you know what that's like. And so financial stability is something that you will gain as you sub under small and begin to get prime contracts. You will not only be able to make money and put it in the bank and save a little, but you'll also build your relationship with your banker so that you do have money. That's why I lay out those 3 streams, is by the time you get to larges, it's not unrealistic that you have $100,000 or $1 million in a line of credit that you're able to access with your bank because you built a relationship with them. Number 9, talent acquisition. This is a similar type thing in the background. And I already mentioned on this, right? Is that, do you have the ability to truly recruit and hire good people to work on the large primes projects, right? They want to know that you can staff up the positions that they agree to give you as part of the teaming agreement when they have you subcontract with them. And so a talent acquisition plan or capability really requires you to not only know how to go out there and get them, but in my mind, it's this ability to show a large that you can staff up pretty rapidly. That's why I gave an example early on when I said, look to the people you already have as you're building a company, right? And again, I'm not talking to the people with 5 people or less. If you got 5 people or less, 10 people or less, do more subcontracting with smalls. A lot more forgiveness in there. But as you start moving forward, right, make sure you understand, how can you move people around? How can you make sure you get people on this new contract right away? How can you backfill them if somebody quits or has to leave the job? The large wants to know you can take care of that. And so what they look for, and this is number 10 here, is they look for this mature process, right? A back office process that will enable you to be able to do capture. I talked about talent acquisition, right? That is a process. If I have a new rec, how do I go out and fill it with great people, right? And what are the resources I currently have to be able to do it? Some people will say, well, I work with 4 or 5 external recruiting firms and they're throwing me resumes. That's fine. I'm not here to tell you what the right process is. Just make sure you have a process for talent acquisition. Same thing with capture and business development, but in particular, capture and proposal writing. When we're doing capture as a subcontractor with a large, they might give us tasks. They might look to us and go, well, how can you help us drive this forward? In particular, if they're looking at you because you have agency intimacy, then we want you to be able to follow a process, go out and set up a meeting, maybe bring us along. We want you to chase down this proposal activity around solutioning, let's say. Hey, go bounce this off the customer, see what you can find out. There's a particular document we need to do. We need incumbent research done. These kind of processes are all your back office processes, right? How can you sit there and demonstrate to the large prime that you're squared away with your processes? I get a lot of people ask me about, should I get ISO certified? And for those of you who don't know, ISO basically is a certification around processes for your company. And what I tell people is, and we talk broader about this, but it's less about the certification. It's more about, are you actually putting in place the process for that you got the ISO certification on? Do you put it in place and follow it, right? That's what they want to see. And often when you go to a largest, they'll look for you to demonstrate that. How fast can you respond to a data call? How fast can you write a page or two? So these are really important things that large firms look for from small businesses. When you get ready to start knocking on doors and going into larges, and again, later this week, I'm going to do one training just about, cold calling and getting into these places. But when you start doing it, think first about them, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood, and you'll be able to track on that. I want you to remember a couple of things, right? Obviously, seek first to understand, then to be understood. The other is, as you move forward to larges, remember that they have a low risk threshold. And one of the ways you can address that risk concern is to demonstrate that the government has paid you before. So having proven prime contracts with the agencies that larges are looking for, that the large you want to target is looking for, that's really important. Have those proven past performances. That's a strategic way of thinking. If you don't have those, look into 2024 and go, well, how can I get them, right? How do I begin to line them up? And then the last thing is just remember that whole process of give, ask. Forget about the small business goals or any of that stuff. Go in there and talk to the largest about how you can help them, how you can help them succeed, how you can help them win contracts. One of the things, if you haven't done this before, on our website, www.govconchamber.com, you'll find we have 3 directories down there. We're about to upload them next week, or update them next week for October. But one of them is a small business directory of a small business specialist directory and large prime SBLOs, small business liaison officers. There's over 1,000, 1,500 names in there of agency and large prime small business professionals who are there to be a liaison into their agency and into the large primes. Those folks are a great access in. And so if you're trying to learn to get into a large, make sure you download that directory and you can get names, numbers, and emails for the large primes you're trying to go after. So, okay, as we go forward, remember, we do this training every single day. Come back, then put this on your calendar. You'll see 2 more trainings lined up this week. If you get value out of this training, become a sustaining member. And then remember, we've got this networking event coming up on October 17th. We call it the No Nonsense Networking. It's designed specifically to help you make introductions. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. And our No Nonsense Networking event is designed to help you get more people to know you and for you to know more people. You can take it offline to build the like and the trust part of that know, like, and trust. If you want my help, we have a BD Accelerator workshop, and I only have 3 slots left for the rest of the year, and then I will not do this workshop again. I'll actually be stopping any kind of one-on-one with me working with people so that I can do a lot more. But we have 3 more slots. If you're interested, let me know. I know some of you already did from yesterday, and I'll get back to you. But just message me on LinkedIn, and I can give you some more information. But it's a business development accelerator workshop for 90 days to really push you into an agency of your choice. For everybody else, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is coming back to the next training. I'll see you at the next training.